I actually cannot believe what I have just seen. Manchester United beating Southampton by 9 goals to nil, and not without the help of Mike Dean and the officials in that game as well. I uploaded a video last week after Aston Villa beat Southampton by a goal to nil. The crazy VAR decisions that were given in that one. The first of all, the handball by Matty Cash that wasn't awarded, and then the offside later on in the game. I forget exactly what it was, but I actually a week later and talking about some worse VAR decisions. Now, look, if I'm this angry, if I'm this animated, this upset about it, I cannot imagine. I actually can't imagine how Southampton fans are feeling right now. Elias, Chris, James, Cam, welcome all along to the stream. For those who haven't seen, United was it 6-0 up, I think, when Southampton had a goal disallowed. A very good free kick routine. To be fair, the first shot was blocked. Che Adams' effort was blocked, and then it came back to him, and he scored from a very good angle. And VAR had a look at it, which is all fair enough. And Che Adams, who was onside, was adjudged to have been offside. And just when you think it couldn't get worse than that, I think it was at 7-0 maybe when this happened. There was just so many goals, it's actually hard to even follow, but ball passed into Anthony Martial. He took a touch past Jan Bednarek. Bednarek went up and approached Martial, held himself back. Martial went down. We saw the first angle, it was a wide angle of the pitch from the left-hand side. It was a difficult one to see. There was another one kind of in front of it, but at an angle as well. Difficult one to see. Then they showed an angle from behind where you can clearly see Bednarek comes across, makes no contact with Martial, and Martial goes down. It is the most blatant dive you are ever going to see. VAR, the video assistant referee, has a look at it. He's talking to Mike Dean. They say to Mike Dean, go over and have a look at the pitch side monitor. Mike Dean goes over and they show him the wide camera angle, the one from zoomed out, not zoomed in, way over the other side of the pitch, and they expect Mike Dean to be able to make an actual decision on the instant with that. And he gave the penalty, and he sent Jan Bednarek off. Now, aside from the fact that Bednarek shouldn't have been sent off because double jeopardy and all that, if he goes for the ball, doesn't have to be sent off, it was the most incompetent, incapable, idiotic, pathetic attempt at officiating I have ever seen in the Premier League. And that's the honest truth. I don't know any other way to put it. Now, Mike Dean was the VAR, the video assistant referee himself last week when Southampton lost to Aston Villa, the handball and the offside decision there. But I'm actually at the point now where I can't even think of words to describe how bad VAR is. Sorry, not VAR, but the referees, the officials that have been tasked with implementing this technology are so incompetent that I fully believe we are now going to see a situation where Jan Bednarek has his red card rescinded. And Southampton are going to appeal that, and it's going to be rescinded, as it absolutely should be. This has only happened once before since VAR came into the Premier League. It was Heung-min Son had his red card rescinded after Andre Gomez broke his ankle in the game between Tottenham and Everton last season. But the fact that there's so much money being spent on getting VAR into the Premier League and implementing it, and so much time being spent on perfecting the process, yet there are officials that can look at an angle that blatantly shows Jan Bednarek did not touch Anthony Martial. It's not like there was minimum contact. There was no contact. And those officials, not only do they look at that incident and be unable to come to a conclusion, but they ask the referee in the 86th minute of a game that is at 6 or 7-0 that he needs to go over to look at that monitor, and they show him the one angle where you cannot see what has happened. You cannot look at that angle and tell me it is or it isn't a penalty. Yet there's one angle that clearly, distinctively, beyond any doubt, shows Jan Bednarek did not touch Anthony Martial. David here, the Irish Hotspur, saying that the implementation of VAR has ruined the game. I grew up loving. It's a sad day. RIP football. I fully agree with you, and I tweeted that as soon as this incident happened. I actually just could not understand what happened, and I'll share my tweet here because I'm actually still in shock at the decision. I really, really am. I said, I can't believe this. VAR has somehow gotten worse. Why is that the angle that they've shown him? I'm done. I'm actually done. VAR is ruining the sport, this league, and everything that our beloved sport is about. And I don't think there's any other debate, any other way to put it than it is just completely ruining the league. And look, as a Spurs fan, we've had decisions go against us that I've been furious about. The Eric Dyer handball earlier in the season was a shocking one. But when decisions go our way and they're wrong, I'll say the exact same thing. I will be honest, and I'll tell you if I think a referee got a decision wrong in favour of Spurs. But Christopher here saying, I feel bad for Ralph. His team was generally abysmal today, like Joe's the other day. Look, the team was terrible. They deserved the defeat. There's no doubt about that. But 9-0 is not a fair reflection on that game because of how VAR impacted it. Che Adams' goal, in my opinion, should have stood. And that penalty, nobody can say that was a penalty. Yet somehow the man in charge of the game, the man being paid thousands, having gone through all this training, and let's not kid ourselves. Mike Dean should be an outstanding referee. Not only is he at this level, not only is he being paid enough to do this job at this level, but he's been here a long, long time. As far as I'm aware, he's the most experienced official in the Premier League right now. Yet how is he the worst? How is he the worst? Eunice says it's the referees that sit behind VAR, which is the problem, not VAR. And I fully agree with that. VAR itself is a fantastic process, and it is being used expertly all around the world. In the Hyundai A-League in Australia, perfect. Absolutely perfect. And you can hear what the referees are saying and all that. That is what we need in the Premier League. I would love to know what was said by Mike Dean and by those VAR, the video assistant referees in that game tonight, to somehow come to that decision. Igor says VAR should only change things when it's clear and obvious, not little things or 50-50s, which is what it was supposed to do. That was the initial guidelines of VAR was brought in, is it has to be clear and obvious. You can't tell me any of the minimal offsides they've given have been clear and obvious. In my opinion, if you look at an offside, if you can see it with your naked eye, say it. If you can't, don't. They've taken clear and obvious completely out of this. Eunice says abysmal what they're doing to this game. Aithelson says it's not the VAR that's the problem, that should improve things. The referees aren't using or interpreting properly. It's not even they're not using or interpreting it properly. They're just not good enough. They're not good enough. Now, I know it is difficult for them with all these rule changes with the handballs and offsides and all that, but that tonight had nothing to do with the rule change. That was the one bit of leeway I gave the referees when I uploaded that video last week. Nobody knows what the handball rule is. And let's go back to Rodri's incident against West Brom. Not many people understand the offside rule because of how vague it is, or not because of how vague it is, but because of how often it is being changed. There's nothing, absolutely nothing that you can say about that decision tonight which gives Mike Dean any sort of leeway, any sort of way out of this, or the VAR officials that were in there. Actually, to be honest, it probably does come down to the VAR officials that were there tonight, because of the angle Mike Dean was showed. There's absolutely nothing he could have done about that. But Lily White Lane says absolutely mental. What is the point of bringing in VAR if it's not being used for the right reasons? Joseph says it makes more blunders than there was without VAR. And look, VAR was brought in mainly because we didn't want the biggest talking points of football matches to be refereeing decisions gone wrong. You didn't want a referee falling for a dive and giving a penalty that changes a game, or you didn't want a linesman calling an offside incorrectly. This was brought in to prevent all this from happening. Yet I cannot remember a season where we spoke about refereeing decisions more than we are speaking about refereeing decisions this season. I honestly can't. Maybe last season comes close, but we had VAR then as well. You go back 2 years ago to the famous Charlie Austin rant, where he was absolutely spot on talking about just what a shambles VAR was. Flamethrower says we should be able to hear what the refs say during the VAR check. Rob from the Last Minute Winner podcast says a massive difference between VAR in football and the TMO in rugby, and the best part is being able to hear the conversation between the ref and the TMO. The TMO works to near perfection. It really does work to near perfection. And I think there was a comment on my video basically that was saying the law in rugby is the ref's interpretation of it rather than the actual meaning of the law. So if that makes any sense, in a game, the decision that the ref makes is the law, and that's the end of that. Which it would work in the Premier League if the officials were competent. And the simple fact of the matter is these officials are not competent. Lily White Lane says I'm scared for the future of football, as am I. Bradley says VAR needs to be scrapped for the sake of the game of football. Instead of helping the game, it makes it 10 times worse. And they said last year, at the beginning of last season, when they brought in this new handball rule for handballs leading to goals and handballs preventing goals and all that stuff after Willy Bolly's handball against Manchester City, which ended up getting Wolves a point. And they brought in the rule about accidental handballs leading directly to a goal, or preventing a goal would be penalised. And there was problems with that from the first minute of when it was actually the rule. And they said they couldn't change the rule because that you can't change a rule that has already been implemented in a Premier League season. If you start the season with the rule, you have to end the season with the rule. I thought, look, fair enough, that's decent reasoning. You don't want one team being punished by a rule earlier in the season, and the same thing happens in another team later on, and they're not punished by it because the rule has been taken out. But they've done that this season. Already this season, they've changed the handball rule 2 or 3 times, and they've also changed the offside rule now recently as well. So why are these directives changing every single day? Why are their excuses changing every single week? If we're in a situation where they need to change rules this often, when they need to change rules at any stage, there are problems. There are huge problems. Flamethrower says, why is it always the Prem having trouble with VAR? Not even the other top leagues have this much trouble, which is my biggest concern. Nicole says, this is absolute madness by VAR tonight. And look, I can't even think of a reason why this could have happened. I was talking to a United fan, a good friend of mine, a United fan, who could not believe that penalty was given. And I'm not saying it's respect to him for admitting that it wasn't a penalty, but if we're actually at the point where even United fans are flabbergasted by their own team getting a penalty, I think we have to start asking questions. Rob says, you think the EPL is purposely doing all of this just so they can get rid of VAR, considering they didn't want it in the first place? If that is the case, it's even worse than I first thought, to be honest. I don't know. I didn't realize the Premier League didn't want it in the first place, but it's ruining the brand. It's ruining the brand of the Premier League, and that surely has to be the last thing that they want. And if that's not the last thing that they want, if they're willing to sacrifice the respect of the brand, what the Premier League actually stands for, what it means, well, then we're having much bigger problems than I thought, if that really is their priority. Nurse says, VAR is ruining football. Willie and Jose dive. DVV says, I'd rather have VAR than trust these refs alone. I take it back to the United game at the lane where Fernandes dropped to the floor with no contact and got a pen. But look, if we're going to have shocking refereeing decisions every single game, I'd rather do it with no VAR than have to wait 5 minutes for a decision, get a bit of hope, and still come to the wrong conclusion. The money that's being spent on that could be spent a lot better on many other things. Joseph says, remember the Rose handball against City in the Champions League quarter-final first leg? No one appealed it at the time from City, as it was a natural position for a hand when jumping in front of the ball, but they gave it. And we're apparently now in a situation where they've fixed all these rules, they've fixed all the directives, and they've sorted out VAR, so it's a good addition to the game, and we're still having these ridiculous decisions. The decision tonight for Manchester United to get a penalty, 100% the worst VAR decision I've seen. 100% the worst VAR decision I've ever seen. And I expect this yellow card, the red card, to be rescinded by the FA, which in the age of having video replays of the incident with 2 qualified men in Stockley Park and 1 qualified man on the pitch, how are we coming to the wrong decision? And how are we coming to such wrong decision? It's not a contentious decision, this one. This isn't one that or someone can come out and say, oh, well, actually, I looked at this way and I think it might have been. This is unequivocally not a penalty. No doubt about it. No one can deny that. Ben Leonard, thanks for tuning in, Ben. So don't think VAR should be scrapped, but it needs modifying. I like the idea of the TMO, where we can hear the referees talking through the big decisions. And that puts a lot more accountability on these referees. It does, because if in that moment they know people are listening to them and they know how they're coming to this decision, I don't want to say they're not taking it seriously now, but they'd have to take it a whole lot more seriously if there was people listening to them. If there's any sort of transcript or recording or pitch side microphones picking up what was said by Mike Dean when he was over at that monitor, I'd love to hear it, because I can't imagine there's one bit of sense being spoken. And again, if he's the most experienced, apparently the most competent official in the Premier League, we might as well just pack it in now. We might as well just give up. Joseph says, I hate that the handball rule isn't consistent. I've seen us not get given the ones that got given against Dyer, which I agree with, but keep it consistent. And exactly, if there was consistency, fair enough, you can understand it to some extent, but they're changing the rules. And even without changing the rules, you can have one decision on a Saturday, another decision on a Sunday, the exact same incident and different decisions given, and that is a whole other problem. That is a whole other problem. That it's endless problems. Eunice says, I don't want VAR to go just because I don't want to see another ghost goal like Lampard's in the World Cup not be given, or the handball from Thierry Henry still count as a goal, or the handball from Maradona. Well, look, the Lampard goal in the World Cup is down to goal line technology, but That handball by Thierry Henry, by the way, I'm Irish, of course, it frustrates me. The referee said he saw it. The referee said he saw Thierry Henry handle the ball and decided not to give the free out for Ireland. He decided to allow the goal. That's not down to the referees. I don't know what is. Eunice says just train those referees to become more competent and more professional. Look, they've been through so much training. They do go through consistent training. I remember seeing Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher doing a little piece for Sky Sports where they went through the referee training for a day. Flamethrower says, isn't this why English refs don't get chosen for the World Cup? And it absolutely is. Bednarek did make contact with him, though. The red card was harsh, but I think it was a penalty. He made contact with him when Martial was halfway down to the ground. Martial is running this way, and Bednarek's coming here. And just as it looks like there might be contact between, say, Bednarek's knee and Martial's leg, Martial starts to go down, and as he's falling, he makes contact with Bednarek. You cannot possibly tell me that is a penalty. You really cannot tell me this is a penalty. James says this is why we call them Manchester United. It even goes further than that. It's not just for Manchester United. It happened for Aston Villa last week. If anything, you can say VAR has an agenda against Southampton. I'm just so frustrated at this. Aithelson says VAR is going to be a work in progress for a few years yet. It's going to annoy everyone with the howler decisions that referees keep making. For example, Sonny's chalked off goal versus Liverpool. Yeah, and look, I think Son's against Liverpool was the right decision because the freeze frame they used, he was offside. But if you're looking at Che Adams' tonight, if you're looking at, was it Sadio Mane's goal against Everton earlier in the season when was it Jordan Henderson was adjudged to be offside or vice versa, at least the ones where it is a fraction marginal offside, at least they are offside, where we are now starting to see decisions when the player is just, he's onside, where the player's onside, you can't rule him off for that. I do completely disagree with the marginal offsides as well, but we're actually at the situation where it does go worse than that. Like Naylor says, offside is ridiculous too. Welcome celery agent. Joseph says, I think a lot of English Premier refs are stuck up their own compared to so many leagues, even outside the top 5 leagues. Look, the referees just aren't good enough. Rob Smith says players don't get cards for diving, use VAR for that. Yeah, Martial should have been booked to that tonight. They say, I'd actually be interested to see how this pans out, because the initiative that was brought in before VAR, so I think it was the last season of the Premier League where we didn't have VAR, they brought in a rule that if a player successfully conned an official to get a penalty by diving, they would then get a retrospective 2-game ban. So now we're looking at this, and Bednarek's red card is going to be rescinded, and if it's not, more questions need to be asked. But if Bednarek's red card is rescinded, that then is the FA admitting it wasn't a foul. So that's then them admitting Martial dive. So does he then get a 2-game ban? I absolutely don't know. Martin says it was definitely given due to Louise's card earlier today. Look, Louise's one, I do think it was harsh, but at the end of the day, it's contact from Louise that caused the attacker to go down. I think it was William Jose. It was slight contact, but when you're running at the pace Jose was running at, I do think that was a penalty. Look, maybe that's me with my Spurs glasses on. Maybe not. I don't know, but I do think the early one was a penalty. They're different situations because Bednarek just hasn't made contact. Bradley says if you get a little tap in the box, go down because 9 out of 10 VAR will give the penalty. Eunice says that's another issue. Players that over-exaggerate a dive and scream and yell like they have been shot or something should be checked by VAR. Mohamed Salah is the master of that, I'm going to say, because he gets the penalties. I do think we're at the stage where players do need to go down if there is contact in order to get the decision. Who was it yesterday? I think there was someone in the game yesterday or at the weekend who was clipped at the edge of the box, went in, it might actually have been Mikel Antonio against Liverpool, who was clipped kind of just inside the box, and he stumbled but kept his balance and got the shot off. Whereas if he'd gone down, he probably would have got his penalty, and he ended up, of course, missing the shot. The offside doesn't work because they can never pinpoint by frame the exact frame where the ball leaves the player's foot. You can't do it before the ball leaves, so it's afterwards. You might just put the player in an offside position, and that was the talk about the Son offside against Liverpool. There was some frames where the ball was kind of just about leaving Ndombele's foot, and Son was then back in an onside position because of Trent retreating. But that's where it comes down to: is it clear and obvious? It's one of those where if you can see from the naked eye, then make the decision. But if you can't, let the original decision stand. And the way they do it in the Dutch Eredivisie, they have a similar system where they draw the line from one player and the line by the other player, but the whatever width the lines, I think like 5 centimeters or whatever, if the line of the defender is here and the line of the attacker is like just, even if it's just the slightest bit crossing over the if the two lines are crossing over, it's given as onside. There has to be a clear gap between the two lines for them to make that decision, which, look, it isn't the naked eye, but at least you're not going to get those players who were like George Baldock against Spurs last season, offside by the tip of his boot, not even his toe, the tip of his boot. There's just a whole lot that needs to be changed, a whole lot that can improve the way VAR is being used, that can make it some bit sustainable to be in the Premier League. And look, we're not going to see any change anytime soon. But look, I wanted to say something again today. I know I said it last week because I was just really annoyed after the Villa Southampton game, and somehow it's gotten worse. Rob says, "Come on down, Matt. Mane was held back by Newcastle keeper a couple of weeks back, and no pen given when it was blatant." I didn't mention that, but it was a wrong decision by VAR. I don't know what you're talking about, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a wrong decision by VAR. Martin says has to be altered to clear daylight. I fully agree with you there. Look, make sure to leave your comments down in the comments below, and I really don't feel as though anyone can agree with the Bradley says football's gone soft. Anyone can agree with the decisions that have been made lately, the current directives, the current implementation of VAR. If you have enjoyed this, if you do agree, if you think VAR is a shambles, make sure to smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, I'm trying to get a lot more Premier League content out there, but I am mainly Spurs channel for now. We'll have a live watch along for the game on Thursday against Chelsea. You probably get to see us cry in that one. Then live watch along for West Brom on Sunday as well. So please smash that like button, smash the subscribe button, and all that good stuff. If you are new to the channel and all that. And as always, to everyone who's joined over the last 22 minutes, about 500 of you, thanks for watching.